delve a little deeper into the topic of forgiveness, this is the one I would recommend. We're good? Okay. So welcome everyone to our second workshop, because the one before this got rescheduled due to illness. That's the one on dementia and Alzheimer's, which will be now April 12th. So today we are grateful to have Mark Van Buren with us. He works with the folks at the Center for Mind-Body Balance, and he is an author, and he can tell you a little bit more about his other background, but it does include following the Buddhist faith, correct?
Yeah.
And being a teacher of meditation and mindfulness. So we're really grateful that he is here. And it turns out that we are from the same town and know some people together. So small world. So without further ado, we're going to turn this over to Mark.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Hello. My first time in here, and I have to say, I felt a lot of love in here. You know, so, you know, some buildings just carry that. So, and that's all probably because of you guys attending and doing your worship every week. So I really appreciate that. Really appreciate being here. So yeah, I've been practicing and studying meditation for about 20 years. I teach right over there. And this topic of forgiveness was an interesting one for me. And I may come at it at a little bit of a different angle, but I think it's going to be a helpful angle, because it's really, what I really want to make sure that I go over today is the how. Because we might have all the ideas, it sounds good, forgiveness, and I want to do it, and I'm going to try this, I'm going to try it, but how do we actually get to that place where we can find that peace in our hearts? So before I get into some of the things that I brought, I want to hear maybe from like one or two people who are willing to share, you know, why did you decide to stay? You know, what's on your heart? What's on your mind? Is there anything, you know, after the sermon that maybe is left, you know, or has left some questions for you? So any brave souls out there?
I'm pretty thick.
Yeah.
Any insight you can give me to be unthick, I'd be grateful.
So to be a little less thick, a little softer, more lighthearted?
Yes.
You're like a 2x4 like me. Hit me with a 2x4 because I'm not getting it.
Yeah, well, you know, it's funny because with my private clients, with people that I see in the classes, with my own life, people who have dedicated themselves to these kind of practices, that's really what I kind of see the most, is that there's a softness that comes. It's not that your personality goes away and you're just happy and loving all the time. That would be nice, but it's not real life, I don't think. But that you just become a little more soft. You take yourself a little less seriously. There's more lightheartedness. So hopefully I can offer something that can help with that. Anyone else? Well, going once? No? You're just here for the show. Fair enough. Okay, so I wanted to actually start out with a story that Jack Kornfield, he's an author, I've heard him tell it a lot, and I think it's such a wonderful story. It's, I think, an extreme example of forgiveness, but it also shows the power of what forgiveness can offer. So there's one young boy, just 14 years old, who wanted to become part of an inner city gang. In order to initiate himself into the gang, he went out and shot another teenager his own age. He was subsequently caught and arrested for the murder, and after a time, he was brought to trial. He was convicted, and just before he was taken off to prison, the mother of the young man who had been murdered stood up in the courtroom, looked him square in the eye, and said, "I'm going to kill you." And then he was let off in handcuffs. While he was incarcerated, the mother of the young man who had been killed came to visit him. He was shocked and surprised. During her first visit, she talked to him for a little while, and later she came back and brought him some things he needed. A little money to buy things in prison, some writing materials, and began to visit him regularly. And over the next 3 or 4 years, as he served his sentence, she would come visit him regularly. When the time came for him to be released, she asked him what he planned on doing when he got out of jail. He had no idea. "I've got a friend who has a little business. Maybe you can get a job there," she told him. And then she asked, "Well, where are you going to live?" And he said, "I don't know. I didn't have much of a family before I came in here." And she said, "Well, you can come and stay with me. I've got a spare room." And so the young man moved into her home and began to work at the job she had found for him. After about 6 months, she called him into the living room, sat him down, and said, "I need to talk to you." He said, "Yes, ma'am." She looked at him and said, "Remember that day in court when you were convicted of murdering my only child?" He said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "Remember I stood up, I said, 'I'm going to kill you.'" He said, "Yes, ma'am." "Well, I have. I set about changing you. I came to visit you over and over and brought you things and made friends with you. And when you got out, I took care of you and got you a job and a place to live because I didn't want the kind of boy who could coldly murder my son to still be alive on this earth. And I've done it. You're not that boy anymore. But now I have no son, and I've got no one, and here you are, and I wonder if you'd stay with me and live with me for a time. I can finish raising you as my son, and I'd like to adopt you if you'd let me." And she became the mother of her son's killer, the mother he never had. Whew. Chills, getting a lot of chills today. This is a true story, yeah. Well, this is what someone told Jack Cornfield, so I believe it's true. And, it brings me to, for me, meditation, right, is not what you think, like, like that's what everyone thinks of when they think of meditation or some weird kind of thing. But for me, it's a training in how do I meet my life? How do I meet what we could call the 10,000 joys and sorrows of this life? How can I hold all of it? Right? And for me, that's what we're training when I'm teaching people about meditation or mindfulness is how do you meet your life? How are you meeting your life? And when it comes to, especially with forgiveness, how do we meet the pain? How do we meet the fear? How do we meet the resistance, the not wanting to let go? And this is what, I hope that I can offer you some kind of practice that can actually make that a reality. But before we get to that, I just want to say a couple things that I wrote down here. I usually don't write stuff down. So you guys are getting, top dollar here today. So as human beings, we are guaranteed at one time or another to suffer from betrayal, conflict, loss, or pain. Anybody not have those things? Could have your $5 back. There's a book called 5 True Things. I don't know if you ever read it, by David Rico. I'm going to just tell you the 5 things, just so we can all get in line, right? The givens of life. Everything changes and ends. Things do not always go according to plan. Life is not always fair. Pain is a part of life. And people are not loving and loyal all the time. Sounds like a pretty depressing book. But what it's really doing is offering us clarity. And for me, meditation is about seeing life clearly so that we can more wisely and compassionately navigate our way through it. It's not a quick fix, it's not a magic pill, but it gives you the clarity. So I teach something a lot. I say the bad news is the good news. So when you hear these givens, it sounds like a lot of bad news. Everything ends. Man, that stinks. Things don't go according to plan. Pain's a part of life. But once you understand that, then something shifts, right? Once you understand this is how it is, then you stop resisting it so much. You stop wishing for something else. You stop hoping that life be some other way. And you can actually finally settle in to what's actually happening. And that's a big part of what the practice is about, is how can I settle into my life? How can I open to my life? And how can I use these ingredients, whatever they may be, It might be anger, it might be pain, it might be painful memories, it could be depression, anxiety, addiction, whatever it might be. How can I use those ingredients to train my heart, to train my mind, to go into the direction of compassion, wisdom, empathy, understanding? And that's how the bad news can become the good news, because now I'm using it for my spiritual practice. I'm using it to train my heart and mind in a wholesome direction, in a skillful direction. And ultimately, it does make our life better, because we're making wiser choices and we're causing less problems for ourselves. So understanding that this is the way things are helps us navigate a little more wisely and compassionately through it. A quote by Frank Ostaseski, I'm not sure I'm saying it right. Forgiveness shakes loose the calcification that accumulates around our hearts. Then love can flow more freely. And if we look at the story, right, I'm sure this wasn't just an instant, let me go visit this person that killed my son. I'm sure there was a lot of inner work that had to be done, a lot of forgiveness that had to be done. But once that forgiveness was allowed, think of all that love that was available to flow through. So without forgiveness, we're trapped in the past. Forgiveness allows us to set down our old pain and helps us open to love. You know, and there's another story, Jack Kornfield tells a lot of stories, so that's why I'm always referencing him. But he tells just a story of two ex-prisoners of war, and they meet years later, and one says, "Have you forgiven your captors yet?" And the other replies, "No, never." And the first responds, "Well, then they still have you in prison, don't they?" Right? So another way to put it, forgiveness means giving up all hope for a better past. So how do we do this, right? So this sounds really nice. I'm sure we all have things that we want to forgive, whether it be about ourselves, or about maybe people who've done things to us, or maybe people out in the world now that are doing things that maybe we aren't a big fan of. So how do we do it, right? What's the magic formula? Now, for me, forgiveness is not something you can force. So you could call it an accident. I like to call forgiveness an accident, and then the practices that we do make us accident prone. Does that make sense? Or think of it like watering a garden. We can't force something to grow in our garden, but we can tend it every day, and if we take good care of the garden, we show up, we water it, we make sure it gets enough light, keep the animals and bugs away, then things will start to grow. So there's a conscious part of this, and then I think there's also a passive part. You could call it grace in a sense. So there's work that we have to do, but then all of that work can build up, and we can have letting go happen, right? Does that make sense a little bit? Okay. So one of the first things that I teach people is a little 3-part meditation. And it's not, you don't need to be sitting, even though we are going to be sitting. You don't need to, it's not like a formal thing. But when you're going through your day, and let's say you do have a painful memory, and then you're filled with resentment, you're filled with anger toward the person or situation, what do you do? Right? So the first thing that I teach people to do is to honor the feeling. Right? So this takes a little bit of practice, because normally we want to blame. Right? We want to think about the person, we want to think about the situation. We don't want to actually turn toward the feeling itself. And actually, by thinking about the person and situation, we're actually avoiding the feeling itself. It's almost like a way to keep us running away from the actual pain. And to go back to your softness question, if we want to become soft, we have to go into the fire. Right? Think of bending glass. You know how there's people that can bend glass? You can't just take a piece of glass and bend it. You're going to break it. It has to go into the urn and get really hot so it can be malleable. So step 1 is like going into it's an urn, right? Furnace, kiln. The urn is like, it's not an urn. Not an urn, guys. Kiln. It's been a long morning. But so, we sit with the fire of our feelings. And this is, I think the first step in the direction for forgiveness, for peace, for just becoming softer, more tender human being is getting to know our pain. We already know pain's a part of life, right? The given of life. So now it's how am I relating to that pain? And we want to train ourselves to meet it differently. The normal human approach to pain is how do I get rid of it? How do I destroy it? How do I run away from it? How do I distract myself from it? How can I take something to make me not feel it anymore? And they may work temporarily, but it's not really a skillful approach, and it doesn't really help transform the pain, right? Our body knows how to metabolize these things. We just have to give it a chance to do it. And especially with things that are painful in our lives that we might be holding on to, clinging to allow it some space to come up, to express itself, to be felt, to be processed, metabolized, whatever words you like. But the first thing is to let go of the person, whoever it may be, even if that person's you. Let go of the object of your pain and go directly to the felt sense. And what I like to do, try not to hit my mic, is I bring one hand to the chest and one to the belly. If you want to try. It's just a way to, you feel the literal warmth of your hands, but you're holding yourself with warmth. You're letting go of the object. You're letting go of fighting it. You're letting go of wishing that this feeling wasn't here. And you're saying, okay, here you are. And the mantra, I guess you could say, for this first phase is, it's okay, let me feel this. And you see what that's like. And the way I like to use it, or to kind of understand it, is it's almost like you're handing your pain over to God, to the infinite, loving compassion of God. And you're just saying, okay, let me give this some space. Think of it like an open mic night to your heart. And it might be rage. It might be resistance and anger. But we want to bring unconditional friendliness to that feeling. And we can label it, oh, rage, right? Oh, there's rage. Hi, rage, good to see you again, right? Get as angry as you want in this moment. Go ahead. You want to take over my whole body? That's fine. I'm willing to experience you. And in this way, we're training our nervous system to allow suffering, right? One of the other titles of one of my talks one time was, are you suffering? Are you simply suffering, or are you suffering effectively, right? So if we're going to have suffering and pain and difficulty in life, can we learn to meet it differently? And that's what we're training. So now, instead of something coming up and we're like, I just want to forgive, like, go away. It can be like, oh, well, what's this? I think something else in here I wrote by another author that I love, Pema Chodron. She says, be more curious than afraid. So when you're in that moment of unforgiveness, be more curious than afraid. What is arising? And then allow yourself to feel that, create a space so that that feeling can come up. And the way we metabolize it, unfortunately, is by experiencing it. There is no spiritual bypass. There is no magic mantra or prayer, right? We have to go through it. I wish it wasn't that way. Probably make a lot more money if I had the secret to go around it. But we have to experience it. And we have to make friends with it. It becomes a part of us. And something that I teach too is, if you get injured physically, right? Let's say you get in a car accident and your arm is severely destroyed and shattered, and there can be healing, but with that healing, you still may have limitations. You still may have aches and pains that come and go. depending on the weather, depending on movements. And it's the same emotionally, right? Some things you get a little paper cut, you can heal, it's gone in a day, no problem. Severely broken arm, a lifetime, right? So depending on the painful experience that you've went through and the size of that experience, forgiveness and moving forward and letting go doesn't mean you magically go back to how you were. It might mean, hey, I have some limitations now. I have some aches and pains that may not forever go away. I'm not saying they're going to stay at the intensity that they're at. Anyone have surgery before, right? The first couple days, it's like miserable. But then, months go by, years. And I severed my nerve in my thumb. Like, I can't straighten it all the way. It's still a little numb. It doesn't really hurt much, but it was the most painful thing that ever happened to me the day after surgery. But with time and with, allowing it to heal. And that's the really important thing about this forgiveness, is that we allow ourselves to heal the wounds. We allow ourselves to follow the pain back to the source of our pain and hold it with great compassion and, the compassion of God, right? You can hand it off. You can allow yourself to feel it, but it's almost like, I am offering this to you. This is too much for me to carry. Can you hold it with me? Can we hold it together? So this way you don't have to think of it as doing it alone, right? I can just have, either Jesus or God or however you want to word it, hold this with me. So that's phase one, is feeling the feeling without the storyline. What does it actually feel like, the rage in your body? What does the sadness feel like? Where does it live? Can you hold it for a moment? And what you also realize when you do this is that something that I teach all the time, however it is, there's room for it. So our true nature, if you want to say awareness, right? Or your soul, whatever words, again, fit your beliefs, it's bigger than the pain. So whatever you're experiencing in that moment, if you just pause and you observe it, that awareness is bigger than it. And that's a really good insight to have, because we normally think, oh my God, if I feel this, the world's going to end and I'm going to get squashed. But if you pause with it, you realize, oh, wait, this is just an unpleasant sensation. It can't last, right? Everything changes and ends. It can't last. And however it is, there's room for it. So this really changes the way that you meet these things that block us from forgiving or that keep us stuck in unforgiveness. So that's the step one. Does that make sense? To pause, to feel. It's okay, let me feel this. God, hold this with me. Help me experience this so I can metabolize it, so I can get softer, so I can be more loving. And we're going to see how it keeps going in that direction. The second part is just an honest acknowledgement about where you're at with it. So I think of it like calling up a therapist and telling them how you're feeling. So it's like, hey, yes, I'm feeling this intense anger and this pain from whatever happened, and I'm really struggling with it. So first you honored the feelings, but now you need to honor yourself. Hey, this is a real form of suffering for me. And just to be able to say that. And there's a little four-line mantra or whatever by Kristen Neff that I like, and it's, this is a moment of suffering. Suffering is a part of life. May I be kind to myself in this moment. May I give myself the compassion that I need, right? So you acknowledge the feeling, you acknowledge that this is a feeling when it comes up that you really struggle with, that you have a hard time with, or even if it's about a person or a situation, this is a real form of suffering for me. And suffering is a part of life. It's my turn to experience this. May I be nice to myself in this moment? May I bring some friendliness? And now this is my favorite part, the third part. And this is the compassion part. So in this moment of unforgiveness, of rage, of anxiety, sadness, whatever it might be, the painful memory, somebody harming us, we recognize that in this moment, there's probably a million other people feeling exactly what you're feeling, right? So if we understand that, hey, pain is a part of life, that whatever happens to us happens to human beings, right? There's nothing that happens to us that isn't supposed to happen, right? If something happened to you, it's part of the human experience. And I assure you, you are not alone in the suffering you're experiencing. So there's a little shift that happens. You shift from, I'm suffering, poor me, I'm alone, nobody else on Facebook looks like they're suffering, right? Or none of my other friends look like they're struggling with this, right? To, there is suffering, there is pain, there are people that are causing harm and doing damage to people. And there are people that feel just like me, that don't want to forgive, that are really still stuck in their pain. So you let that open your heart and you send out a prayer. It can be a prayer or a wish of loving kindness. The wish of loving kindness might sound something like, may everyone who's experiencing this find forgiveness in their hearts, including me. Or, may anybody who's holding on to this pain find some sense of ease. Whatever you feel like you would want in that moment, you offer to yourself and to everyone else. And then you can turn it into a prayer. Hey, God, I'm down here in a lot of pain, and I know there's a lot of other people that are feeling just like me. Can you give us some grace here? Can you hold this pain for a moment? Can you give my heart some ease? Again, it's very unique to each one of you, what you're feeling and what you'd want in that moment, And then there's even a step further, and this is a practice called Tonglen, which translates to sending and receiving, where if you feel brave enough and compassionate enough, you can breathe in your suffering, imagining that you're breathing in all people suffering who are feeling just like you. And then on the exhale, you breathe out the relief. You send out the relief. And I love to think of Christ dying on the cross as the ultimate act of Tonglen. I am going to die for you, right? So I'm going to suffer so you don't have to. So it's just a nice little added touch where if you want to take your heart even further. Now, if you've got plenty of your own suffering and it's very overwhelming for you, stick with yourself. You don't need to be a superhero. But ultimately, our heart is big enough to take on all the suffering of the world, especially when you are connected with the infinite source of compassion that can hold anything. And that's an important part that you need to remember. It's not just you holding it. It's you plus the loving presence of God, the loving, compassionate spaciousness of the infinite God. So to be able to do this, and not just once, over and over again, and think about it. Imagine every time that you felt unforgiveness, every time you had a pain from a painful memory, or, again, it could be any suffering. I know we're talking about forgiveness, but it could be any form of suffering that you can do this. You can pause. You can let yourself feel it. And that phase, you can let it last as long as you want. If it's overwhelming, take 3 breaths. Say, okay, you can be here for 3 breaths, and then I'm going to go distract myself, right? But you start to slowly get to know it, and you start to see that as painful as something can get, it will hit a peak, and then it has to change. And I like to think of like birth contractions. I had a kidney stone. I hear that's kind of close. But birth contractions, they get intense. Was it 1.5 minutes, right? So it gets really intense, and then it's got to turn around and go the other way, right? And having that understanding of impermanence. Impermanence is something I talk about every single time I teach because of how important it is. So when it comes to, not willing to forgive and the feelings that come along with that, to be able to feel that and recognize, okay, I'm going to let myself feel this. It may get overwhelming. It may get very overwhelming, but at some point, it's going to hit the peak of overwhelm, and it's going to start to dissipate. Just like, the storms that come and go. And that helps you settle into it. That helps you become a little less afraid of it. And that's where that softness comes from. That's where that space comes from. And all you need is just that little bit of space so that compassion can come in. And that's where the forgiveness can start to kind of flow through. So the active part is consciously pausing, consciously feeling, consciously wishing the compassion and sending out the prayers. And then over time, softness, compassion, letting go, forgiveness is the result. And that's more of the passive side. Like a garden, I don't get to decide, when the tomatoes grow or, how fast they grow, or I can just show up and they grow when they grow. It's up to the universe, right? So it's the same thing with forgiveness, is we just show up, we start working with it. If I feel the hardness in my heart, I'm going to hold the hardness. What does hardness in my heart feel like? It's a squeezing and it's a heaviness, and we give it some space. And sure enough, sometimes, that hardness might open, and all of a sudden there's tears. And then after the tears, there's open space. At least that's from my experience. If we allow ourselves to grieve, to feel, to be sad, to touch the pain in the world, then we get in touch with a soft, loving spaciousness that is right beyond it. And that's what we learn to take refuge in, so that we can hold all of these wild things that come to our minds, our hearts, our bodies. We can hold it with some compassion and space. So, any questions?
Yeah, I got a question.
Sure. You want to?
Ken, I'm
We're gonna mic you so everyone online can hear.
Talk loud enough.
It won't pick you up.
It won't pick up.
Go ahead. It's on the left. Don't worry, just talk.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, but the people
Hi,
that
what-
are listening really want to hear.
All right. I know it's a human condition, a condition that I have today. And I know that you have to take a step back. But that human condition is, anger is very difficult to get rid of when you're, when it's a jaundiced kind of a thing.
Sure.
So what I appreciate with what you gave us today is the fact that you have to take that step back. You have to start thinking that you're hurting someone else, or or your anger is piercing someone else. And I appreciate listening to you today because I do that often, and I find myself getting angry at myself after I do it.
Yeah. I know anger very well. It's a good friend of mine, anger. And it's not that we have to get rid of it, and that's the key. When I have clients come to me, they all want me to get rid of their problems. Problems don't go away. Problems are the nature of life, right? So anger is a part of life, and it's a habit, right? And think of it like, so if it was raining today, I wouldn't come in here and say, "I'm so rainy, what's wrong with me?" Right? You'd think I was cuckoo, right? But we do the same thing with the impersonal conditions of our bodies and mind. So anger is just a condition. It's for whatever reason, based on your life, all these different conditions of your life, genetics, parents, life, the ways that your mind has decided to develop, anger arises very easily for you, right? The key is to get to know it and to not take it so personally, to understand that it is just like the rain. It'll arise, but then it'll pass away. And you don't need to pick it up. And that's the key, is I don't need to hold on to this. I don't need to identify as this. And you don't need to feel bad about it, because you're not there. I think 2 weeks ago I gave a talk, you are not your fault, right? So the way you are, your personality is not your fault. And I'm not saying your whole personality is bad, but just in general, your personality type and the way that your mind decides to meet life, that's not on you. So you can take that burden of guilt off, but it is your responsibility what you do with it. And that's where the meditation helps give you that space. So it's hard. I mean, the word mindfulness in, I think it's Pali, is sati, and that word also can mean to remember. So just to remember to pay attention, just to remember that you can pause with anger and see it. It's hard. It's very seductive anger. It's very sticky, and it's so easy to just get sucked into it.
Varying degrees of it.
Yeah, exactly. But to learn to be with it when it's there, right? And one teacher says the freedom from suffering is in the same place that suffering arises. So the freedom from anger is right there when you're angry, in that moment. And it's not about getting rid of it. You're not a bad Christian if you're angry. You know, if you do something wrong or you make a mistake, you're a human being and you're just getting caught in the human experience, you know? And for me, a lot of what I teach is just a little bit of friendliness towards our humanity. Like, I get caught. I have 4 kids and a full-time job and part-time jobs. I had a very stressful morning. I work on Sundays, so this is a nice break. I'm sure my phone, when I go back to it, it's going to be a nightmare. But this is it. This is our lives.
I find that I have 3 boys, 3 men now. But I had to learn to treat them each differently because,
Yeah.
the way they would accept my anger was not the way I really wanted that. Most of the time it's a lesson, but, it gets more than it should
Yeah.
have gotten. I appreciate that.
And you know why you get angry? Because you care. And to get in touch with the care and the love underneath that. Why are you getting angry? Because you care about these people in your lives and you want them to make good choices and you want them to,
We should carry that over to people that we don't know, and we're going to
yeah. Well, it's you know what? That's why we call it a practice, not a perfection. A practice. Every day is practice. That's how I look at it. For me, meditation is not just sitting and breathing for 20 minutes. It's how am I living every moment? So to bring that attention every single moment, what mood am I in? How am I talking? And what am I really trying to say? What am I really feeling? And sometimes, I get caught, and then afterwards, I just if I, yell at one of my kids or something, I just had a bad day, and then they're not listening, and just have a conversation. Hey, listen, I had a really tough day, and you guys were arguing. I lost it. Sometimes this happens, and then you apologize, and then we love you, and that's it. I grew up in a house where you didn't say how you felt, and I found that to be more neurotic. I'd rather there be fighting in my house and conversations and forgiveness and hey, love you no matter what, even though you drove me nuts today, than swallow how you feel to keep the peace. So, I mean, I don't know, I kind of would rather that sometimes, but but yeah, so, give yourself a break. You're doing the best you can with the wisdom you currently have, which can just continue to grow, and just introduce pauses throughout the day, and especially the second you notice that anger, get it while it's an ember, not a forest fire. Catch it the first moment you feel, we all know what that is, right? You're just having a good day, and then somebody calls and says something, and to be able to just say, all right, now I need to pay attention. Right? Because this is what causes violence in the world. This is what causes all of these horrible things that you see. Just that. And I think our path and our practice is to make friends with the things that are out in the world that are causing harm. Right? Anger is one of them. How many acts of violence come out of anger? Just that feeling. So if we can make friends with that in ourselves, then we can meet it differently in the world. But it's hard work. I wish I could say that it's easy. It's not, No one, it's like we shouldn't have problems. That's the society we live in. They say, oh, you should just be happy and successful. And if you're not, you're screwing something up. And then we feel guilty that we're not happy all the time. And then we pretend like we're happy, but that is stressful and causes a lot of neuroses. So to just be able to say, hey, I'm having a bad day, and I get angry sometimes, and I screw up, and that's okay. It's just life, you know? So to be able to just really accept our lives. And I think that's, you know, kind of like the love of God, right? Is like, hey, like, this is your life, and it's not perfect, and you're going to mess up, but that's okay. I love you anyway, right? And we can do that for ourselves with our anger, with our unforgiveness, with our fill in the blank for all the fun stuff that we got. But thanks for the question.
It's a long question.
Yeah, it's a long answer, right? That's why I told you I got to watch the time. We'll stand here till 3 o'clock. Any other questions on this, on forgiveness, on the 3-part thing? Any question at all while you have me standing here?
Thanks for coming. Thanks for
You're welcome. And happy to return anytime. So.
Do you have it written down in a format that I could take and put together as a handout?
I have a video that has a transcript, and I could
Okay.
probably use AI to
Perfect. Perfect.
ChatGPT, my good
Yeah,
friend.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
next Sunday, Amanda is coming, so she'll
Yes.
approach from a semantic viewpoint, which will get to some of what you two were dialoguing about, the or the ember in the fire.
Yep.
Yeah, how
Yeah.
can we recognize that within our body? So that'll be good.
You know what? It's simple.
Yeah.
It really is simple. Feel what you feel. But it's very hard and very difficult at the same time, because not only are our minds made to not feel that, we also have the conditioning of our society that says you shouldn't feel that. So then we feel so alone and isolated. Meanwhile, everyone's feeling the same thing we're feeling and pretending they're not. And we can just all stop pretending and just feel what we feel and make friends with that, and then meet other people and tell them that it's okay to feel that. And that's the beauty, I think I wrote down to tie into what you were saying, you know, about the community, right? Sharing our stories help us heal. So to be able to have a community where you can say, hey, I've been hurt, and I get mad, and we can all just say, we love you anyway. Like, keep trying, keep showing up, and to have that community when you fall to pick you up, when you're broken to hold you, it's a really special thing. So, you know, appreciate the community you have here and the leaders you have here that will help you through these times. And I will say, as a, I don't know, teacher or whatever, you showing up helps us. I'm sure you could say the same thing. Because if I'm going to teach people to face their lives, to hold their pain, well, guess what? When I'm in pain, I think of you guys, and I think, well, I'm telling them, so I better do it. And I know there will be a time where something will happen in my life, and the only way I'll probably show up is knowing that people are coming here. You know, so it's a two-way street. We're not higher. I surely am not. But we're all walking the path together. We all have different gifts and ways of explaining things and doing things, and we're all helping each other. So I'll end with that. So thank you.
Just one more thing I want to say. Yeah, let's applaud.
Thanks.
One of the things I think I've mentioned before, but I'm going to give a plug again, is that after Lent, after Easter, our next hope is to create something called Life's Transitions. And so we'll work again with the center and put together with your input, because it's what's important to you that we're after, put together some programs that are maybe 3 weeks in duration. Maybe one life transition program has to do with, again, forgiveness or mindfulness. Maybe one has to do with grieving. Maybe one has to do with changes in our physical capacity, whether we've had an accident or our body is just aging gracefully, but it still is hard. Whatever it is that you come up with that you say you want to delve into, as a community, we'll reach out to the center and find someone to help facilitate that. So as a community, we can work together for a few weeks on a particular topic. So we look forward to that. That's future programming. So we'll probably be calling, knocking on your door again.
I'll be ready.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank
Bye,
you.
guys. Thank you.
Just for the crowd, okay, at the beginning, just your name and how people get in touch with you.
Oh, yeah. So, looking at the camera? It's that way? I'm Mark Van Buren, and I'm the meditation and mindfulness instructor at the Center for Mind-Body Balance. And, you could just go on their website and easily find information. I'm pretty easy to find. If you just search my name, you could find my website, all different fun stuff. So it's Mark Van Buren. I'm happy to help in any way that I can. I'm here to support you guys in any way that I can. So don't hesitate to reach out.
And next week it will be Amanda, and we'll be dealing with, in worship and in the workshop, dealing with difficult people.
Ooh.
People that we find difficult. And they'll
There's a
probably
lot of
say,
those.
you're difficult. Yeah.
There's a lot of those. All right.